Can I ask you firstly, just if we go back to last summer and obviously the kind of buzz of the World Championships in Budapest, and now we have another World Championships this time the indoor. Have you seen much of a kick on in the sport? I know it's only 6 months or so, but has there been much of a fallout from that in a positive way?
Yeah, look, I think the public profile of our sport is way beyond what it has been for quite a few years. Like we've had positive champs going back to Oregon, which probably didn't capture the limelight at home because of time difference, amongst other things. But then Munich, Budapest, repeated success at Eurocross, etc. So I think the public profile, my own personal experience on the street locally, is people know and understand athletics a hell of a lot more than they did 5 years ago. And I guess back in two-channel land, which I grew up in a long, long time ago, if athletics was on TV, everybody watched it. Whereas now people have to go out of their way to find athletics. And thankfully, the coverage that Virgin gave us in Budapest last year and coverage we had in Munich and so on, it really, the numbers of Joe public that sits on the couch and watches track and field athletics when the big championships are on are considerably more than what they've been. So I think that the shop window our sport has and the platform our sport has been given in the last couple of years is well in excess of what we've seen in quite some time. And it does appear to be capturing the public imagination. Like names like Sarah Lavin, Sarah Healy, Israel Olatunde, they are names that Joe public knows now and converse about. So I think that's really positive.
Obviously, talking about Sarah, she's been really consistent this year in the indoors, 790s all the way. She was even obsessed, I think, a little bit when I was chatting to her that she didn't break 790 at the Nationals there at that time. You must have high hopes for a very successful competition for her, even though the 60-meter hurdles has kind of moved on a little bit, even in time-wise.
Yeah, look, Sarah's moved on considerably in the last 12 months, but the event is moving on as well. So I don't think it's a case of running to stand still. She certainly has made huge ground. But as I said, she made a final 2 years ago, absolutely seeded nowhere near making a final. She's actually seeded to make a final this time around, and there will be huge opportunities for her. I think she posted 791, I think, on her opener. And I think an average in the last 3 years, Sarah improves about 0.14 of a second from her opener to her season's best. And that would bode very well for a championship performance to get excited about. But she is a championship performer. She does go through the rounds. She does tend to exceed what would be expected of her. So, look, at the very least, she's hoping to make a final. And if in a final, anything can happen. You look at the big guns that are in there. There's a DNF somewhere, there's a DNS somewhere, there's a hit hurdle somewhere. And Sarah likely will go on and exceed that 791 and go faster as she moves through the rounds. So it was really, really positive and in a truly world-class field. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Fingers crossed. Israel, I think it's his second World Indoors. He's 21 now. Look, he's still very young in terms of sprinting. 671, I think, this year in the national, 657, obviously last year, his record. It's a big year for him, though, isn't it? Kind of, you would like to think now that he might kick on a little bit more. He's in amongst, some of the fastest men in the world. So this is a real big test for him, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big opportunity. And again, 657, 12 months ago is world-class running. He's not that far away from that. He's raced sparingly so far this season. He has had a bit of personal misfortune via family connections in recent times. So, but he is in a good place, and I do think he is ready to kick on. Again, 11:17 outdoors last season. He does need to get back beyond that, and again, and beyond it. But he will, I think. And look, 60-meter running at championships it can be funny in that first round heats can be relatively early. I think he's kicking off at about 1 o'clock on Friday, which is a little later than it often is the case. So I think sprinters struggle to find a very top gear in opening round heats. So if you're going in with a 671, it wouldn't be unusual to come out with maybe a 6-7 high, but he is ready to kick on. If he can get into the 6.6s, I think a 6.69 actually made the semi-final 2 years ago. I think it'll take faster than that this time round. But if he gets into the mid 6.6s, he can certainly make a semi. If he gets anywhere near a 6.57, who knows? But I think a semi-final is probably what he's looking for at the moment, yeah. But look, that sets him up. It's a big summer ahead. It's European Championships where he excelled in Munich 2 years ago. And the Olympic Games is the target. So in terms of rank, he's got a bit of work to do there. But, this championships can contribute to that in terms of ranking. And he needs 3 performances outdoors. So he's not in a bad place and he's ready to kick on.
Do you believe he has another level to go to?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, like when he ran that 11 or 10-1-7 in Munich, I mean, he was surrounded by 10-1 guys. Like, in my opinion, that was a 10-1-0 performance or better. So he certainly has that potential. So as you say, he is young and I'm absolutely confident he will kick on. Yeah.
And listen, just briefly then about the rest of them, the likes of, I suppose, our high hopes, Sarah Healy, Sharlene, possibly to get past the semi-final if she really, kicks on as well. Roisin's been thrown in there, and the relays then as well, which was one of the highlights of last summer too.
Yeah, well, I think Sarah Healy is probably the one a lot of us are quite excited about. Again, her 4:03 was a really positive run, national record. But again, Trevor Painter, Jenny Meadows herself felt there was more there, and feel there is more there. She's in a peculiar situation, and like she's ranked 5th. It's not as deep a 15 as it might otherwise have been, but with 3 Ethiopians in the field, so 2 athletes per nation. Generally, if you have a wildcard entry, you can go to 3. The odds would be on an Ethiopian sweep in the 15. However, it's not beyond Sarah to get down close to that 4:00, and if she does that indoors in a time trial type final led out by the Ethiopians, anything can happen. So I think Sarah's a real prospect, and it could be very, very interesting to see how it works out for her. Women's 4x4 are strong. There's only 9 entries in the field, 6 to make a final. Based on season's best, you're looking at a 3:29 high being potential. It will take at least that to make a final. You have the USA in there, you have the Netherlands in there, battling out for the gold medal. I think you have Jamaica, GB look quite strong, and then I think it's Belgium, Czech Republic, ourselves, and maybe one other. So a final would be the target, and a final with a national record would be really, really positive. So yeah, that's what we're looking at there.
Great stuff. And listen, then just finally from me, just picking up on what you mentioned there, just a little bit disappointed maybe the team isn't a little bit bigger. Is it just one of those things, the way the calendar has fallen this year? There's so many kind of high profile races, obviously the Olympics, athletes trying to find the right mix of competing, resting, training.
Yeah, look, athletes have got to do what's right for them in their wider, bigger plans, and it is Olympic year, and the Olympics is the big dance. It is all about the Olympics. European champs is going to be a landing pad towards the Olympics for many, and for many of our 400 guys and possibly our sprinters, you're looking at world relays. So you take something like the men's 4x4, a couple of athletes had niggles. We could have selected, but that's probably eaten into a qualification opportunity to get to the Bahamas for world relays, which is critical for Olympic qualification. Individually, like ultimately, a lot of the guys would be extending an indoor season by 3 weeks to go to Glasgow and go to Worlds in the year that's in it. Potentially 3 and possibly 4 champs, depending on your event. It may be a lot to ask. So getting back into a big block of training, getting back up to altitude if you're a distance runner, those things are important as the summer kicks in. And I guess Europeans, or top end guys, most have locked in European qualification already. But for that second tier, many of them could have gone to Glasgow. You've got to have 3 performances outdoors very early on to be sure of a good rank, and there won't be a whole lot of opportunity to race while Europeans is on. So you do need to hit the ground running once the outdoor season kicks in. So yeah, look, I guess one feature of this championships, we had it last year as well, and I think some of us in the media and myself might have talked about it last year, but the process for entering and qualifying for this championships is very convoluted, and you're relying on indoor world rank, which is loaded towards outdoor performance to qualify in an indoor champs. So some of the athletes who are performing very well indoors don't qualify a bit into the ranking system. And I suppose the real phenomenon, those of you guys that have looked at the entry list, target numbers of, we'll say 30 in the men's 400 has not been met. And there's a few phenomena at play there, but I think one is simply that some federations didn't really understand the process. And I think a lot of fields aren't fully filled when they could have been, and I can't have to say that doesn't apply in our case. We had it bang on, but yeah, it's been a funny championships in terms of qualification, final entries, etc.
Stuff. Okay, thanks, Paul.